The colonization of South Africa. A dark legacy. The term apartheid may evoke images of separate entrances, beaches, schools, and benches. But the roots of this oppressive system run deep into South Africa's colonial past. How did a small white minority come to dominate and impose racist laws that enshrined white supremacy? While apartheid officially began in 1948, centuries of settler colonialism laid the groundwork for this racial segregation. In 1652, Jan van Riebeeck, an agent of the Dutch East India Company, arrived at the southern tip of Africa with a mission to establish a refreshment station for ships en route to Asia. Initially, the Dutch interacted with the indigenous Khoisan people, trading for meat while cultivating their own crops. However, this relationship quickly deteriorated as the Dutch began seizing land that was not theirs, encouraging European farmers, known as Boers, to settle in the Cape. By 1657, the Dutch started allocating land to these settlers, transforming the Cape into a hub of European colonization. As the population grew, so did the demand for labor. The Dutch resorted to capturing individuals from East Africa, the East Indies, and neighboring regions, enslaving them and bringing them to the Cape. Over 176 years, more than 60,000 people were enslaved in the Cape Colony, many of whom would later be classified as colored under apartheid laws. As the Dutch settlement expanded, other European groups, including Germans and French Huguenots, joined the migration, further encroaching upon Khoisan lands. The British entered the scene in 1795 and formally took control of the Cape in 1806. They encouraged their own settlers to migrate, and by the 1820s, thousands of British settlers arrived, particularly in the eastern regions and Natal. Tensions escalated between the British and the Boers, leading to the Great Trek, an Afrikaner migration into the interior of South Africa in search of independence from British rule. This movement resulted in the establishment of the Boer republics, the Free State and Transvaal. But these new homelands were already occupied by indigenous peoples. The trek paved the way for further colonialism and violent confrontations with local populations. For the next century, the British and Boer settlers engaged in brutal conflicts against the Xhosa, Zulu, Ndebele, Pedi, Venda, Tsonga, and Basotho peoples, all of whom faced dispossession and violence. European settlers often employed the empty land theory to justify their actions, claiming that South Africa was uninhabited and that the indigenous Bantu tribes were recent arrivals from what is now Zimbabwe. This discredited notion allowed colonizers to rationalize the theft of land from its rightful inhabitants. By 1850, the British had granted limited self-governance to the Transvaal. However, the discovery of diamonds and gold soon ignited two Anglo-Boer wars. During these conflicts, the British established concentration camps, resulting in the deaths of nearly 30,000 Boers and untold numbers of Africans, as the British maintained little record of their casualties. In Natal, the British fought to subjugate the Zulu Empire, led by the formidable King Shaka, while also bringing indentured Indian laborers to work on sugar plantations. These diverse migrations contributed to the complex tapestry of South Africa's demographics. The formation of the Union of South Africa in 1910 marked a turning point, but it was a union that largely excluded non-white voices. The country was divided between British-controlled areas like Natal and the Cape, and Boer territories such as the Transvaal and the Orange Free State. Faced with what they termed the native question, the British and Afrikaners enacted a series of laws designed to disenfranchise and dispossess indigenous peoples, culminating in the Land Act of 1913, which restricted black land ownership. By 1934, South Africa had become a sovereign state, free from British legal authority. Yet this independence did not herald equality. In 1948, the National Party, representing Afrikaner nationalism, took power and institutionalized apartheid, a system of brutal racial segregation and oppression that would dominate the country for decades. The history of South Africa's colonization is a sobering reminder of the impact of imperialism and racism, shaping a nation still grappling with the consequences of its past.